Hey, what's going on there, people? It's Jay here, and welcome to another episode of Eye on Apple. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the iPhone 6C. So the iPhone 6C is a phone that Apple is supposedly planning on releasing sometime early this year in March or April. It's going to be very similar to the iPhone 5C that was released, I guess, around the same time the 5S was released almost 2 years ago, or over 2 years ago. It featured the multicolored backs and more of a, I guess, polycarbonate or plastic or whatever the hell Apple called it at the time. They always have a special name for plastic or, metal or something, But anyway, the iPhone 5C, if you remember, was based on almost identically on the same exact form factor as the iPhone 5. It had the A6 chip. It was definitely, from a performance standpoint, a step down from the iPhone 5S, and it made people really think about what they wanted to do as far as a performance perspective. But all of the rumors circulating about the 6C seem to almost blur the line between the 6C and the 6S, and it's actually not more like the iPhone 6 as most people would have expected it to be. So what's going on with this phone? What's amazing is that it's reported to have a battery that's comparable in size to the iPhone 6S. It's going to have an A9 chip and not an A8 chip. It's going to have 2 gigabytes of RAM, which the 6S has, and the 6 has 1 gigabyte of RAM. So all of these things are very perplexing to me because it goes kind of against Apple's original kind of feeling with the way these phones are. So you have all of these rumors circulating, and that's basically what they are. And a lot of times the rumors are correct, and a lot of times the rumors are not correct. So I'm going to throw out what I think is I have no idea if it's it's just based on Apple's MO, which I've watched very closely for many years, and it's the reason why I started this web series, because people ask me a lot, and they know that I'm kind of an Apple fanboy, and they always want to know my take on things. But here's what I think is going to happen with the iPhone 6C. I think the rumors are incorrect. I believe that the iPhone 6C will be based more on the form factor of the iPhone 6. I believe it'll have an A8 chip. I believe it'll have 1 gigabyte of RAM. And I do not believe that the iPhone 6C will have a 4-inch screen. I think that's the big story out of it. I think there'll be one iPhone 6C, and it'll have a 4.7-inch screen, the same size as the 6S and the 6. Okay? The reason I say that is because for Apple to go back and to make a bunch of 4-inch screens, it just seems like their setup is already made so that they can make the 4.7-inch screens pretty easily. And the whole thing with the 5C was it was kind of a throwaway, because I believe I read somewhere that they had a bunch of old A6 chips that they had excess, and they didn't want to just throw them away. They weren't going to keep making iPhone 5s, so they figured they would make a cheaper version of the iPhone 5, kind of dress it up a little bit, make it a little bit more fun. And there was the 5C, and it actually was a lot more popular than a lot of people thought that it was going to be. So if you're following that line of process, I think even if it did have an A9 chip and all that other stuff, it's just from a perspective of ecosystem. Apple's already set up to make the 4.7-inch screens. They've left the 4-inch screen in the past, and I do not believe they're going to want to go back to a 4-inch screen. A lot of people say, well, the customers are demanding it. The customers are demanding it. Apple never has once listened to customers. Never, okay? If you go back on the history of Apple, a lot of times the things that they've released, people didn't even, as Steve Jobs said, people didn't even know what they wanted until Apple released it. They didn't even know that a tablet could be as good as an iPad, or they didn't even know that a phone could have just a huge monster 3.5-inch screen, as he called it when he released the original iPhone, because the phones with just a screen, they didn't exist before the iPhone, okay? And people were like, what do we do with no keyboard? Oh my God, So that's the thing that you got to think about. Apple does things their own way. They think their own way. And they do things that are easiest for them, at the same time making things accessible for their customers. So they want to make a slightly cheaper phone. Really, I don't know what they're going to do as far as what's the internals of this machine. But I don't think that they're going to go back to a 4-inch screen. I really don't. I mean, they had a lot of opportunities to do that, and I really don't believe that the outcry for a 4-inch screen is that strong. It really isn't. And now that I've upgraded from the 5S to the 4.7-inch screen, now the 5S looks tiny to me. It's too small. I mean, it's still a great phone from a performance perspective, but the screen is too small. The 4.7-inch screen, I believe, for a phone is perfect. A lot of people would argue with me the 6 Plus. The 6 Plus is a phablet. If you want a big phone, get that. But I'm saying if you want to have something that still has the portability and usability of a small phone, the 4.7-inch screen is like, that's it. Like, honestly, they never, maybe tweak it a little bit, but they never have to change, honestly, because it is perfect. It really is. So that's what I think. That's just my take on it. I really don't think they're going to go back to a 4-inch screen factor. I mean, if you think of how many people are asking for it, I mean, what's the percentage? You know, a lot of times the unsilent majority makes a lot of noise about things, but they don't always know best. So I really think that Apple is going to make a 6C. I think it's going to be more based on the iPhone 6 specifications rather than the 6S, because they're still selling the 6S and they need to have a reason for people to buy it. But we'll see. So let me know what you think in the comments and whether you think I'm crazy or not crazy. But I don't think I'm crazy.